Guy was a fantastic older brother. He was somebody I looked up to and followed into medicine. We were very close and remained very close right through our lives, really. His attitudes to his patients, his colleagues, his collaborative inclusivity, if you like, in terms of the way that he approached his work was something that I have always sought to emulate.
I knew Guy when I was a trainee in Anaesthesia and Intensive Care, and Guy was somebody who always was very humble. He played down very much how good he was at his job and how much knowledge he had.
Guy was a big chap. He was incredibly calm, particularly in a crisis, and I think a lot of his colleagues and staff around him would say that as well. That's something that stood out. Always put the patient and their family first, and was extremely good at dealing with some of the most difficult situations. There was barely a season that went past that we didn't ski together for at least 2 weeks. We both enjoyed cycling. Neither of us really built for it, but incredibly keen cyclist. Guy was a mean mountain biker particularly, and slightly better going downhill than up. He went for a bike ride with 3 close friends, also anaesthetists in this hospital, and he was hit by a lorry. His friends who were with him undertook what they could with the resources that they had available to essentially to keep Guy alive long enough to get him to hospital, which in itself was a monumental feat. The air ambulance arrived with the HEMS paramedics who knew Guy, and a doctor on the helicopter who was actually one of Guy's own trainees. So he was being cared for by people who couldn't have known him any better. He arrived in the emergency department that I work in, and again was met by friends and colleagues. There were very prolonged attempts to resuscitate Guy that ensued then over the next 16 to 18 hours, I think. And there was input in Guy's care from well over 100 people in this organisation, in the hospital. And we're, as a family, just enormously grateful to everyone who was involved in that day. We were in intensive care when Guy actually died in the early hours of the 20th of November.
I was working on the intensive care unit on the day that Guy died. It was a really difficult day, and it's still really difficult now to talk about. One thing that is so positive that came out of that time is how closely linked the Department of Anaesthetics and Intensive Care are. And I think going into the future, it just shows us how strong we as a group are, but also how strong North Bristol is in terms of how important it is to support each other.
His loss has just had an enormous impact, not just on us, but on our friends, his very broad group of friends, and in particular on his colleagues. We set up the Memorial Fund to support the hospital and to support areas of the hospital that Guy worked in and was most passionate about.
Guy has already left an indelible mark. His ability to identify the troubles that we might face and help in designing this fantastic intensive care unit. It'd be really sad if Guy's legacy stopped at just his design, and my hope is that the fund will continue to allow the intensive care unit to develop in the way that we hope it will and can.
We hope that we go on and this leaves a sort of lasting, meaningful legacy of the things that Guy cared most about as a doctor and as a person.